Hello and welcome back to 2H Productions. Today I want to talk about some speculation based on Spawnwave's new video covering the discontinuation of a couple Joy-Cons. So I'm sure you're wondering what kind of speculation we can really get into based on the discontinuation of Joy-Cons, but it's actually not so much the Joy-Cons themselves, but what they are linked to that I find to be interesting here. So notably, the three Joy-Cons that are being discontinued are the gray Joy-Cons, the red Joy-Cons, and the yellow Joy-Cons. Now, I'm sure most of you know that these three Joy-Cons specifically are tied to releases of specific games and the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, the gray ones are a base set Switch Joy-Con, along with the neon ones, which interestingly enough are not being discontinued, while the red and the yellow ones are connected to ARMS and Mario Odyssey specifically. Now, I do want to point out that there are a number of reasons why these Joy-Cons could be being discontinued. It could be simply just a routine discontinuation of these Joy-Cons in preparation to launch new colors. It could be related to the COVID-19 outbreak and halting production on certain colors that sell less to increase production on other things and to get more Switches out. It could just be 100,000 things. However, for the sake of today's video and for the sake of speculation and giving us something to talk about, I think it's interesting to look at the connection based on these Joy-Cons and the specific games that are related to them. So why would they be getting rid of the Joy-Cons connected to ARMS and Mario Odyssey? The only reason I could think of specifically when it's related to the game that we're talking about, and of course this is speculation, this is nothing of evidence, I have some things to back it up, but this is pretty much baseless speculation, so just keep that in mind. But I think it seems an interesting time period, and it seems like it would be tied to those two games getting sequels within the near future. If you're going to get rid of a red Joy-Con and a yellow Joy-Con, you'd probably want to replace those with new versions of those Joy-Cons. And what else would give you new versions but sequels to the old games? So you no longer need the first yellow Joy-Con because we're going to get an updated version with it tying into the new ARMS game, and a new version of a red one tied into Mario Odyssey 2. I think that would make a lot of sense. Now, there's more evidence here for ARMS 2 than there is Mario Odyssey, and the big thing that really puts weight into the ARMS 2 argument is that Smash Brothers and how that reveal went down. So Nintendo has had a precedent before with Smash reveals that we get a trailer, right? We get the trailer, and even when they don't have gameplay to show us, right? This is a notable thing here. Even when they don't show us gameplay, they usually show us a trailer to announce those characters. We saw that with Joker, and we saw that with Terry. So it's twice now that's happened that they showed us a trailer, and then months later they showed us gameplay footage. The main thing that was holding back the ARMS reveal is gameplay footage, right? The ARMS characters are going to be a little bit difficult to implement, and obviously with the outbreak going on, it slows everything down. However, I don't see a reason really why the trailer couldn't have been put out if they wanted to. I feel as if there's not much holding that back. Now, sure, it could be related to the outbreak, absolutely, but I feel like that Nintendo Direct was done before all of this happened, and I feel like they probably do have the trailer done, because it's coming out in June. This character's coming out in, at this point, what, 2 months? A little bit more than 2 months? So, I feel like what's going to change between now and 2 months in this situation? I feel like they probably have this done beforehand, or else they would halt this character indefinitely until, the outbreak's over and they can get everything done. So it seems like they're hiding something here. And the thing I think they might be hiding here is that the ARMS character isn't actually going to be from ARMS. The ARMS character is instead going to be from ARMS 2. It'll still be one of those base characters that were in the original ARMS. It could be Springman, Twintel, Min, Max Brass, or any number of characters, but they'll probably be sporting a new costume, and they'll have a double reveal like they did with Animal Crossing New Horizons for both the Smash character and the new video game. And this is already widely speculated because of the timing, right? ARMS came out in 2017, it got its updates, and then it was done. And it's been done for a while. I think that finished in 2018, I want to say, is when the last ARMS update came out. And they've done a couple test, what do they call it? Test punches. They've done a couple test punches for that game, but the timing just seems a little weird. And it would make sense that they were putting out a sequel. The same thing is true of Mario Odyssey. We've been waiting for Mario Odyssey DLC to come, and it hasn't. And I've talked about this many times since the release of that game, how that game was primed for DLC and never got any. Now, the reasoning, I think, is because they're not doing DLC, obviously, at this point. They're doing a sequel. And much like what happened with Breath of the Wild, I think it makes sense here. The team probably had a lot of ideas about what they want to do for a sequel, because let's keep in mind, Nintendo employees are fans of Nintendo, generally speaking. So I'm sure they want to see stuff like Isle Delfino and whatnot like we did, but they really have a lot of ideas going on for what they want to do with this next entry. So instead of doing a bigger DLC, they are just making a sequel. It's the exact same situation with Breath of the Wild 2. And it's just been interesting to see Nintendo suddenly pump life back into their early console releases. For another example, we have seen that there is going to be a new test run demo thing for Splatoon, as well as a Splatfest. They're redoing the first Splatfest, which is incredibly strange at this point in time. Splatoon 2 has been, I'm not going to say dead because people are still playing with it, but you know what I mean, like update-wise, it's been stopped for a long time. It seems weird for that game of all games to be getting an update right now. However, what if that's because there are new games coming? If we're entering a time period where sometime in 2021 and 2022, we're going to start seeing sequels released to those 2017 games. Obviously, Breath of the Wild is the first one here, and that's already been announced. But Mario Odyssey and ARMS, they all came after that, because Breath of the Wild was in March. So it's the first one out, right? It was the launch title. So it makes sense that these other games would be trailing behind it. But it also makes sense that it'd be about time for all those to start seeing releases too. I don't actually think they'll be putting out a Splatoon 2 release, or Splatoon 3, I'm sorry, a Splatoon 3 right now. Although some images that I'll have up have reference that something is going to be happening with Splatoon fairly soon. I am leaning more towards the idea of a spin-off happening for Splatoon at this point, rather than a 3. Although the Animal Crossing team is done with Animal Crossing, and we know the director of that game is the director of Splatoon, so maybe they are moving over to Splatoon 3, I don't know. Although it is also worth mentioning that the Animal Crossing team is probably pretty busy doing Animal Crossing updates, because they've just put out something saying that they want to do have surprises over the years, right? So they're probably going to be doing a lot in Animal Crossing, especially given how much that game sold. So a spin-off maybe from a different studio would make a lot of sense here, in my opinion. And it's also notable that the green and pink Joy-Cons that came out with Splatoon 2 aren't being discontinued. They're continuing on. And that's super interesting, because if there's a new Splatoon game coming, they probably won't be tied to a new Splatoon game. So there's no reason to replace them. We saw with the original Splatoon, the main colors associated with that game were blue and orange. The second one was pink and green. Any new game, I think, would have new sets of Joy-Cons come out, but in new colors that are associated with it, instead of rehashing old colors, unlike ARMS or Mario, which are pretty stuck on yellow and red specifically. So as far as the Joy-Con update, I think that's about all I have to say there. I think it's substantial. I think there's a lot going on there. I think, you know, there's some smoke. I'm not saying there's a fire, but there's some smoke there, and I think it was worth talking about. All right, that's all I have for this update on just general speculation. I think that both these things are more interesting, although I'm more focused here on the Mario Odyssey 2 and ARMS 2 thing. So let me know in the comments, do you think that that's actually going to happen? Do you think it's too early? Do you think something else is going on? Or do you think that the Joy-Con discontinuation really isn't anything we should be looking at, and it's just some simple thing that companies do sometimes? Which is extremely likely. I'll see you guys next time. Remember to stay safe, because it's getting kind of crazy out there. Stay inside, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.